All right, now we're going to look at the area of a circle. And I've got a circle here. I've done two colors, which will become clear in a moment. So getting the area of a circle is quite tricky. We have to sort of think a little bit outside the box. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut the circle into a whole lot of segments, like pie sections or pizza sections, from the middle going outwards. And I'll have a whole lot of them, and I'm going to rearrange those. And I've already done that with the other half of the black and white circle that I made before. So you can see here, I've got all the black ones. I've cut that section into 8. Here we are. Roughly, you can see that that's the other part of the circle. And I've got the same with the white. Now I'm going to rearrange these. And I'm going to rearrange them like they're like teeth in a mouth. So a whole lot of teeth pointing downwards. And then in all of those gaps, I'm going to put one of the bits from the white half. So it's like teeth going upwards and some ferocious monster, maybe a dinosaur or a shark. They'll fill all those spaces. Now, this here doesn't actually give us a shape that we know, but it gets us something close to a shape we know. So that's not quite a shape we know, but it's close to actually a parallelogram. If we think about this, and that's bobbly along the top, but if it was flatter along the top, that would be a parallelogram. How could we make it flatter? Well, if I got smaller and smaller sections of pizza or pie or whatever we want to talk about, that gets closer and closer to fat. And in fact, if I did this so that they were infinitesimally small, that very, very small, then it would become entirely flat. And that would become a trapezium. It's not a trapezium, a parallelogram. And that will give us our rule. Now we know that for our parallelogram, we want base times the height. Well, the height turns out not to be too hard, because the height from the lowest point to the highest point here is just the radius. So the height's easy. Now, the breadth here, that's going to be, well, if I think about where these bits came from, they came from the outside of the circle. And they came from the outside of half the circle. So what we're going to have is half of the circumference of a circle times the height. So half of the circumference is my base or my breadth, and my radius is my height. So a half of, now, if you remember back to how we work out our circumference, it would be 2 times pi times our radius. And that would give us, that's our circumference, that's half of our circumference, and I want to times it by my radius, which was my height. Sorry, jumping ahead there, my height of that. So now when I combine these together, a half of 2 is just 1. And they times it by 1 makes no difference. So I can combine these to be just pi times my radius squared, pi r squared. So that gives me my area of my circle. So let's do some examples. So here I've got a radius of 10. So my formula just says it's going to be equal to pi times the radius squared. In this case, my radius is 10. I just put that in our calculator, and it's about 341.16 meters squared. Now, because pi is a rational number, it never finishes its decimal expansion, we always have to round it off. I'm going to round it off here to 2 decimal places. Now, this one here gives us our diameter. So I just got to get my radius. Well, my radius is going to be half of that, so that's going to be 2. So I'm going to have pi times 2 squared. And when we put that into my calculator, I get 12.56, and then my units is kilometers squared.